So I'm also trying to live stream the meeting on our YouTube channel. So this is now live. We are live on our YouTube channel. So FOJ team can see it on YouTube. We are live now. So
hi, Avinash, can you please provide the link to the YouTube channel?
Okay. I will just put it in the. I'm just putting it in the chat. So one of the FOJ members, can you please share the link in the WhatsApp groups that the meeting is
yeah, I'm doing that.
Live on the YouTube channel with the link, please. And Sneha, are you back in?
Neha, are you logged in? Let me call her again, Avinash. Thank you everyone for being super patient. These are initial glitches. I'm sure we'll get through it in a few minutes.
Yeah.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Sneha this side, sir. Actually, I've shared my PPT with ma'am.
Can you share your screen? You should be able to share it.
Okay, no, actually, because of the network issue, I've rejoined from my phone. So that's why. I thought there was some network issue, so I rejoined with my phone. So I'll try with my desktop as well. Meanwhile, I can just start with the brief. If it can be shared from your end, that would be great.
Girja, where have you shared the deck with me? Which email ID?
On the WhatsApp.
No, WhatsApp won't help. If you have it already, can you share from your screen?
Do you want me to email it to you? Okay, I can do that.
Yeah, either you have to email me. I cannot share on this using WhatsApp, right? So sorry about this glitch. We are just over it. Sneha is here. Either Sneha, you can try joining from your computer. You will be able to join.
Avinash, I just
allow screen share.
Yeah, you are able to. Okay, let me put that again. 1 second. Let me locate you. Sneha. Yeah, I just saw you. 1 second. Yeah, you will be able to share your screen now.
Okay, so just a minute. Okay, is it visible now?
Right now, yeah, something is coming. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just start. Sorry for the glitch, everyone, and thank you for having me here. So, as we all know that there have been some major amendments in the adoption regulations 2022, and I'm being told that you have already had a detailed discussion and detailed session on it. So I'm just going to give a brief and summary
Hi,
of
Avinash.
and how far we have come
Hello.
from there. Hello, ma'am. Good to see you again. We have met in Kara. I'm not sure if you remember my face, but yes, you came for a session, for an in-house session. Okay, so Central Adoption Resource Authority, as you all must be.
Sneha, can you do full screen? We'll be able to see this.
Actually, when I go full screen, my slides won't move. So this is the reason, but I can.
No,
least
you have to
my
click on
slide.
enable editing. Only then the slides would move.
Okay.
Now you have to do full screen.
Yeah. From my end, it's full screen.
No, you have to again stop sharing and again share
I
again.
think
Only
let's
then
I
we'll
think let's continue where it's visible. We don't want more technical glitches. The screen is visible. It would be okay. Let's continue.
Okay, so talking about Kara, as we all know that the statutory status that we get is from the Juvenile Justice Care and Protection of Children Act, which came in 2015 and then it was amended in 2021. And that kind of set the precedent for the amendments that came in the model rules as well as adoption regulations. So this is the basically the roles that we have been given under the Act. So basically to promote in-country adoptions and facilitate interstate adoptions, and then to coordinate with state agencies. Another is to regulate inter-country adoptions and frame regulation on adoption and related matter from time to time as may be necessary, something that we have recently done. And then any other function as may be prescribed. Other than this, Kara is also the central authority under Hague Convention on Protection of Children and Cooperation. So basically we call it Hague Convention, and we are a Hague ratified country. How does it, how it affects the adoption procedure is, so when we talk about inter-country adoptions, there are certain countries that are Hague ratified. And when we deal with those countries, we have to comply to all those rules and regulations that have been laid down in this particular convention. So we call it Article 5, Article 17. So it's basically kind of the state of origin, which is basically India, and the receiving state, they both need to come to a mutual agreement that they do not have any issue in a child who is a citizen of another country coming to their country and becoming a citizen of their own country. So this is what we comply when we talk about Hague Convention. Now, other is, so these are basically the roles that we have been given under the JJ Act. Now, Kara is headed by Member Secretary and CEO, and so this is something not relevant for here. I'm changing my slide. Let me know if it's moving. I don't think it will, so I'll have to go back. It did. Can you see the next slide?
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Sneha, in interest of time, can we jump to the regulations, because we have a very tight agenda?
Sure. Yes. It's only a 4-slide PPT anyways. So coming to the key amendments. So
we can't see your second screen. Sorry.
Yes, it is visible.
No, you have to stop sharing and then restart again. Only
yeah, I think so. Okay, I'll just do that.
Please share again.
Can you see the salient features?
Yeah, we can see.
Yes.
Yes, very clearly.
Yes, we can see now.
Okay. So district magistrates to issue adoption order, which is the most talked about and the most important change that we have made in the adoption regulations. Other than that, we have chief medical officers to determine the health status of the child. Now, how this plays an important role is, as of now, we were dependent on the visiting doctor or the physicians that were coming to the agencies, SARS, to determine the health status of the child. Now, what used to happen is we get a lot of grievances even till today from parents saying that we asked for a normal child, but the child is showing the medical reports of the child is suggestive of these kind of problems. So we are not confident to take the child in adoption. In those cases, we had to put those cases on hold, block the child and the parents, then send the reports to the AIMS expert. So it was a very time-taking process. Now what we have done is we have kind of embedded it into the system itself. So before the child comes on to our portal, the medical reports will be certified by the chief medical officers. And given that the CMOs are also government officials, so there should not be an issue. Now, this is the intention behind it. So now every child that comes onto our portal is going to be scanned, or the reports are going to be screened by a CMO. Next is classification of special needs, which have been redrafted as per RPWD Act. So Schedule 18, which is in the adoption regulation, talks about the classification of special needs. Now, prior to these amendments, there were a list of medical conditions that basically mental and physical. So this was the demarcation that was made. And on the basis of those medical conditions, we would certify a child as having special needs or not. Now, the reason behind changing or redrafting it is, so into India today, we have only RPWD Act that talks about disabilities and medical conditions that can be labeled as disability. So, and our regulation, our schedule was not in compliance with this act. So first we have to make this change, because there should not be, we cannot have two laws talking two different things. So we have complied RPWD Act. So all the disabilities that are mentioned in this particular act can be found in adoption regulations. And in addition to it, there are certain medical conditions that we can only see in a newborn child. RPWD has been made from a perspective of an adult. So it's basically if a child who is like 8, 9, 10 years old, or a full grown adult, if they have certain disability, can they kind of get certain medical, get certain concession from the government, or certain schemes, can they benefit from those schemes? This is the perspective of RPWD. But when we talk about adoption, the intention and the motivation is quite different. So we have added certain medical condition that can be seen only in a neonatal child. So it could be neonatal jaundice and certain other things that is there in the adoption regulations. Next is, so as of now, just like ARA has a CEO, the regulations have stipulated that SARA also is going to have a CEO, just to streamline the work process. Next is age eligibility of PAPs redefined to ensure younger PAPs for younger children. So prior to this, the age bracket of 0 to 4 children, it was a one single age bracket. Now we have kind of categorized it, bifurcated it into two. So now we have 0 to 2, and then next is 2 to 4. And accordingly, the age of the PAPs have also been reduced. OCI at par with RI and RI for referral purpose has been made functional. So basically this particular notification was for everything. It's not just for the adoption process, but all OCIs have been made at par with RI and RI. So they can also get access to those benefits or those provisions that were earlier given only to RIs and NRIs. Now, how it has affected the adoption process is, I'm sure a lot of PAPs are here and they are familiar with the term seniority. So now the seniority list of RIs, NRIs, and OCIs is single. Prior to this, the OCIs and foreigners were kept in one bracket, and RIs and NRIs were in the another bracket. 7 days portal is one of the most, after the DMs, this is the most significant change that we have brought, and it has also shown great result to us. So what is 7 days portal? So basically every child who comes into the adoption pool has a certain timeline, when how many referrals or how many days the child is going to be circulated among the resident Indians, non-resident Indians, OCIs, and then when he is going to go to foreigners. So now what we have done is, so there is RI, NRI, OCI, one bracket of PAPS. The child is going to go for referrals within these categories depending on their seniority. After this, what used to happen is from this category, the child was automatically go to foreigners. Now, between these two big PAPS categorization, we have added a 7 days window period. So now what will happen is, before the child goes to foreigner PAP, he is going to be in this 7 days portal where and this is exclusively for RIs, NRIs and OCIs. So what ministry is trying to do is to ensure that the child is placed within India or at the most within Indian diaspora, even if not within India. Even if the child is going to a foreign country, he is with a Indian family who has same socio-cultural milieu. So this is that. Once the child is not reserved within this 7 days portal, then he is going to go for foreigner referrals. After this, PAPS to be barred, I can see that someone has raised their hand, but I'm just going to go through the PPT and then we can have questions. So PAPS to be barred for 1 year if they fail to reserve a single referral out of 3. So as on today, RIs, NRIs, OCIs, they get 3 referrals. And it is the same registration that used to carry forward. So if you have not reserved any of the 3 referrals, your seniority relegates. And then the PAPS wait for their seniority to mature. And then again, the referrals, they'll start to get the referrals. Now, so what we have done is you can only use one registration for these 3 referrals. So if I've registered today and after 2, 2.5 or 3, whatever is the waiting period, depending on the availability of children in our adoption pool, I'll start to get referrals. If I've not reserved any of those 3 referrals, for 1 year at least, I have to be in a sleeping period. I cannot be again jump into the adoption process right away. I'll have to be in a sleeping period. Next is PAPS to be blacklisted from adoption procedure if found to be the cause of disruption and dissolutions. So disruption and dissolutions are very traumatic experience for the child. A child who has been living in an institutional care finally gets a family, and the children are prepared while they are in the institutional care. They are prepared by the social workers and counselors that there is going to be a family who will take you and you'll have a family and all that. And when everything happens and then suddenly the child has to come back to the institutional care, it's very difficult to convince them or to kind of change that negative experience and convince them to be part of the adoption process again. So now what we have done is, after due inquiry, if the parents are found to be the reason for dissolution or disruptions, they will be blacklisted and they won't be allowed to come into the adoption process again. My screen, okay. Next is PAPS with more than 2 children do not qualify to get referral of a normal child. This criteria is relaxed for adopting hard to place or special needs children. Then we have initiated our someone's mic.
Yeah, can I request people to go on mute, please? Or I'll mute everyone and then Sneha, you can unmute and continue, please. Yeah, Sneha, you can please unmute and continue.
Okay. Now, what is state-based referral? Prior to these amendments, PAPS had this option to choose any of the 3 states or anywhere in India. So basically, you choose any XYZ state, and then if you are not willing, or if you don't think that that's the suitable option for you, you go for anywhere in India. With these regulations, what we have done is, the couple has a domicile of a certain state, they can only opt that state. Now, the reason behind Sharda,
Ma'am,
to unmute yourself because I had to mute. People, please mute yourself, otherwise we won't be able to proceed.
Sorry. So state-based referral priorities. So basically, if a couple, one is from Maharashtra and one is from Tamil Nadu, they have domicile of 2 states, and we have clearly mentioned in the adoption regulations what all documents you can submit as the ID proof that you belong to these states. So now you have the option of 2 states. If by chance the question may arise that what if the both the person are from the same state? So what we can do is, instead for going for states, you can choose a cluster. For example, if someone is from Delhi, the male PAP is from Delhi and the female PAP is from Haryana. So what they can do is they can choose North cluster in totality instead of going for states. The reason behind doing so is, when our older children were getting placed in adoptions, there were very high probability, and there were cases also where the adoption would not it won't be long lasting. So there will be cases of disruptions and dissolutions, because when a child is kind of 8 or above 8, they have their own understanding, they have their own worldview, they have their own peer group, they have their own habits. उनकी जो खाने की पसंद होती है, उनका जो बोलचाल होता है, चलना फिरना होता है, किस तरीके से वो किसी को एड्रेस करते हैं, जो बोली होती है, वो सब कुछ बहुत हद तक डेवलप हो जाती है. तो जब वो कल्चरल शॉक जो होता है, हर बच्चा और हर पेरेंट उस चीज में एडजस्ट नहीं कर पाते. तो इन प्रोबेबिलिटी को कम करने के लिए हम ये कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि बच्चा जिस स्टेट का है, या तो वो उसी स्टेट के पेरेंट के पास जाए या फिर उसी रीजन में जाए, ताकि आगे चल के उस तरीके जो कल्चर शॉक वाली चीज होती है ना, उसकी दिक्कत ना आ पाए. Then we have IDM to take up the remaining post-adoption follow-ups for the Indian adoptive parents. As you all know कि अगर आपका in-country adoption है, domestic adoption है, आपने इंडिया में रह के अपना adoption procedure start करा, तो adoption होने के बाद 2 साल तक आपका post-adoption follow-up होना होता है. अगर इस duration
Sneha, some people may not be able to follow Hindi. If you can continue in English, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
So when we talk about domestic adoptions or in-country adoptions, for that matter, any adoption, we have this provision of post-adoption follow-ups for 2 years. So now when any PAP who have executed their adoptions as in-country adoptions, and they are relocating to a foreign country before this 2-year post-adoption follow-up duration is completed, they have to intimate the IDM, Indian Diplomatic Mission of that particular country, about their date of arrival, about every detail, like where you will be staying, because it is the onus of the parent to get their post-adoption follow-ups completed. So, and from our end, we have given this responsibility to IDMs to take care of this. Next is timeline has been stipulated for authorities and agencies at each level, so to curtail delay. So prior to this, we did not have any hard and fast rules that HSR needs to be completed within this date and adoption order has to be finalized within these duration. Everything, all these smaller details were missing. So now there is an entire schedule 15 or 17, that talks about the details. So when a child, the day the child is admitted in the institutions, within how many days or how many months you have to do their child study report, medical examination report, and also how much time do you get, how much time these social workers get to upload it on the carings, everything has been stipulated. Now, our focus on carings is, of course, a lot, because we are now adoption process, approximately 85 to 90% has been made online. Now, there are certain aspects. Eventually, we are also trying to bring those things online as well. Now, so even if the adoption has been done successfully on ground, but if the same is not reflected on carings on our IT portal, the system does not know if the child has went to a family or not. What they'll do is, for them, if the child went to a referral and has not been adopted because it was not updated in the system, for them the child is still available for adoption, and then they are going to send it to another parent. So that creates a grievance. So when we do our training and capacity building with our SARs and SARAs, this is something that we emphasize on, that every change that you are doing on ground, every progress that you are making on ground regarding to adoption of a particular child, you have to do it side by side on the portal as well. Next is counseling stipulated at each level to enhance preparedness of PAPs and the older children. Now, again, I have already talked about older children. They have developed their own mindset up to a level. So they need constant reinforcement towards adoption. Like, why would they want to go to a family when they already have their friends there, their familiar people there? So so the social workers who are with them, they have to kind of prepare them. They have to give them the template of adoption in a way that makes them curious about adoption, that makes them excited about adoption, that there's going to be a family that is going to come and take me. And similarly for the PAPs, so PAPs have multiple reasons to go for adoptions, and but what happens is the nitty-gritties of adoptions, because of course at the end of the day it is something binded by the law, and no matter how clear your conscience is, if at any point it is bypassing the laws, Kara cannot, how irrespective of how much we would want to, but we cannot bypass the laws, because ultimately we are there to kind of uphold it. So it is the responsibility of the social worker to counsel them or to inform them about those nitty-gritties, especially something like seniority. If you reserve a child and you are not going for full adoption, your seniority is going to relegate. Sometimes PAPs come to us that they did not know this. So this is something that we take care of, that we ask all our social workers or SARAs, every agency, every personnel that is attached to this, to kind of percolate these informations to the PAPs so that they are in a better position to take informed decisions. I'll stop share and then I'll share the next slide again. So that's going to be the last slide. Okay, is it visible, the impact assessment slide?
Yes.
Okay. Now, so when prior to the notification, we had around 1,000 adoption orders that were pending. Now, after these amendments, that pendency has come really low. It is now, I think, somewhere around 300. So adoption order issuance by DMs has really worked out well. Now, so as on today, because everything is on portal, so this certification of health status is also something which we have functionalized on our portal. So now the numbers of stakeholders that we are trying to cater through our IT portal has really maximized. And apart from DMs, which is somewhere around 720 DMs are already connected with our portal, we have 500 chief medical officers with us on our portal. Then CWC is something that I'll talk about later. The 7 days portal that I was talking about, now 70 children have been reserved from it, and some of it might have completed their adoption as well. So this basically meant that these children who belong to Indian land are somewhere within Indian families. Then adoption base set up in the UT of J&K. So we have our SARA newly established there. And now, because our SARA is there, so children from the UT of J&K are also on our portal. And I think around 15 or 17 children have already went for referral. Some of the adoptions are in the last stage of finalizations. Now, how we have revamped our IT application. So everything like DM's adoption orders, registration form has been made kind of in line with the amendments that we have brought, MER module. So every changes that we have talked about in the adoption regulations have been made functional through our IT portal. Apart from that, we are also working to bring out certain pamphlets or flow charts for our stakeholders, basically for PAPs, so that they know what is the procedure, because there are a lot of nitty-gritties, but then at least if you have something, some handouts kind of thing, it makes it easier to understand the whole procedure. So we are in the process of developing those protocols, and it will soon be updated on our website. So this is it from my side. I'm not sure if we can take questions right away, or maybe we'll wait for panel discussion.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sneha, for your presentation. Very valuable. We've got some very important and very interesting questions that have been coming up in the chat throughout Sneha's presentation. Very relevant questions. What I'd request everyone to do is to continue your questions. Let them keep coming. We will definitely address those questions, but after the panel discussion, because a lot of those questions might get covered in the panel discussion itself. So please keep the questions coming, and we will definitely take out some time towards the end. In interest of time, I would like to now just move on to the next agenda on our session. I'd like to introduce our panel, Mr. Varun Pathak. If you could please switch on your camera. Mr. Varun Pathak is from CWC Delhi. Good afternoon, Mr. Pathak. Namaskar. Welcome to the session. I'd like to introduce Mr. Varun Pathak. Mr. Varun Pathak is a lawyer with over 17 years of diverse experience in the field of child rights and child protection. He's a trainer, resource person, and a representative member of various committees on child protection and child rights created by government authorities. Mr. Pathak is an expert in policy advocacy and networking on child's rights. His experience in rescue and rehabilitation of bonded and child labor. Mr. Pathak has also worked with international agencies, UN bodies, and Government of India WCD Ministry. Varunji is currently working as Chairperson, Child Welfare Committee, Bench of Magistrates in New Delhi. Mr. Varun Pathak, welcome once again to the FOJ panel. Miss Minnie George, if you can please switch on your camera, we could say hi to you. Hi, good afternoon. Miss Minnie George is a graduate of Hindu College, Delhi University, and an MBA from the Institute of Management Studies, Devi Ahilya Vishwavidyalaya in Indore, and a postgraduate diploma in public relations in Delhi. She's currently pursuing a postgraduate diploma from IGNOU. She has a diverse background and has taken up several challenging assignments. Her list is really long, but let me highlight some of the major areas. She has been in the social sector for almost a decade and has significantly contributed in the Venu Charitable Society and the Jan Vikas Society in Indore for their projects for waste pickers and their children and coordination with various stakeholders. Minnie George was appointed to work in Kara by the then WCD Minister, Mrs. Menaka Gandhi, as a senior consultant and was handling the diverse tasks related to adoption. In Kara, she was also handling in-country adoption grievances. Currently, Ms. George is the chairperson, Child Welfare Committee, Government of India, NCT Delhi, and also continuing to contribute towards sustainable social and humanitarian activities. Ms. George, welcome as our panelist once again. Madhavi Mahatre. Madhavi, can we have your camera, please? Hi. Madhavi Mahatre has a BA in Psychology and Sociology and a Master's in Social Work, Mumbai University. Diploma in Industrial Relations and Personal Management, Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan's Institute of Management. Her experience is also very diverse. She has worked in the field of labor welfare in the construction industry for 5 years, held the position of regional head in Childline for 2.5 years, Madhvi has worked for 2 years at the All India Programs Head in Concern India Foundation. Madhvi Mahatre is currently the director of Bal Anand in Mumbai and has worked in adoption and child welfare with World Children Welfare Trust India for over 18 years. Madhvi, welcome. It's good to see you. You and I have been communicating a lot recently, but it's really nice to see you on screen.
Yes, Girija, it's a pleasure seeing you too.
Okay. And then our other panelist is Miss Sneha Jha. Everybody knows Sneha by now. She was the one who was presenting. And besides these panelists, we also have 2 other distinguished panelists. We have the DCPO, Mr. Saidullo. Can you please switch on your screen, Mr. Saidullo? And we have the DCPO of Delhi, Mr. Arunendra Narayan. Welcome, sirs, to the panel. Mr. Arunendra Narayan, if you are there, can you please switch on your screen as well? I thought I saw him, I saw his name. But anyway, I think in the interest of time, let us begin because we have a packed agenda and we have some very, very important questions that have come up. You know, we've just gone through this entire presentation where Sneha very concisely talked about the new adoption regulations, but that was from Kara's perspective. But, and I think as she mentioned that the most important change that has happened is the moving from the courts to the DM's office. I just want to understand how is it impacting your line of work, the panelists. So maybe I could start with Mr. Varun Pathak. Can I start with you? Since you are the CWC person, how has this entire regulation impacted your work and what are you seeing in the adoption space?
Yeah, namaskar or thank you so much और congratulate to अविनाश जी कि इतने इम्पोर्टेंट इश्यूज में उन्होंने पूरे कंट्री को एक साथ जोड़ा है और अलग अलग जगह का एक्सपीरियंस हम सब लोगों के पास होगा, दिल्ली नहीं और अदर कंट्रीज को भी हम लोग कवर कर पाएंगे। मैं
Varun ji,
2 मिनट्स लेना चाहता हूँ।
Varun ji, a small request. Some people may not be able to follow Hindi, so if we can put it in Hindi and English.
We'll try to mix.
Yeah, thank you.
Language.
And also we have about 45 minutes for this panel discussion. So let's try to make our points quickly. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I have few points recently. This is very progressive approach by the ministry to take up the district court to district magistrate this panel. Just a minute. Avinash ji now is audible?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, we'll finish it 2 or 3 major point के साथ मैं इसको finish कर रहा हूँ। एक तो बहुत important part है कि ministry ने जो new amendment लाकर इसको कोर्ट के थ्रू और डिस्ट्रिक्ट मजिस्ट्रेट का प्रोसेस किया है, बट इस नए प्रोसेस और न्यू सिस्टम में काफी टाइम लग रहा है क्योंकि ऑलरेडी काफी बर्डन है डिस्ट्रिक्ट मजिस्ट्रेट और उन सबके ऊपर और प्रोसेस को स्मूथ होने में भी थोड़ा सा टाइम लगेगा, बट धीरे धीरे चीजें हो पा रही हैं यहाँ पर। दूसरा, ये जो लीगल प्रोसेस है नो डाउट काफी इंपॉर्टेंट है, दिस ऑल लीगल प्रोसेस वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, बट इसमें पब्लिकेशन वाला जो पार्ट है जिसमें हम एज ए चेयरपर्सन ऑफ चाइल्ड वेलफेयर कमेटी हम लोग फेस कर रहे हैं कि काफी डिले हो जाता है पब्लिकेशन पे। दूसरा, जिस लेवल पर हमारे पास एनओसी आ रही है, नो ऑब्जेक्शन सर्टिफिकेट आ रहा है पुलिस डिपार्टमेंट से, वो एक पार्ट है जो काफी डिले हो रहा है। नो डाउट एक लंबी वेटिंग है ही इस पूरे प्रोसेस में। और इसके साथ साथ जो एक जुडिक्शन का इशू आया है स्पेसिफिक कुछ पर्टिकुलर स्टेट में लाइक दिल्ली के, जस्ट लाइक इन माय सीडब्ल्यूसी जुडिक्शन इज नो सा अवेलेबल, तो हमारा जो सा है वो अदर डिस्ट्रिक्ट में है, तो ऑल केसेस इन माय जुरिडिक्शन, माय डिस्ट्रिक्ट जो भी हैं वो प्रोड्यूस होंगे डिफरेंट डिस्ट्रिक्ट के डिस्ट्रिक्ट मजिस्ट्रेट के सामने, जो वहां पर इस प्रोसेस को आगे करेंगे। डीसीपीओ और डिस्ट्रिक्ट चाइल्ड वेलफेयर कमेटी सभी डिफरेंट पार्ट पे इसमें अपना रोल प्ले कर रहे हैं। ये एक हमारे यहाँ पर प्रोसेस है। एक केयरिंग पोर्टल को लेकर एक गैप आ रहा है कि केयरिंग पोर्टल में सा, कारा, डीसीपीयू है, मगर इसमें चाइल्ड वेलफेयर कमेटी इस पोर्टल के साथ नहीं जुड़ा हुआ है। तो आफ्टर उसके बाद हमारे पास सिर्फ रिपोर्ट का ही माध्यम होता है, जिसके थ्रू हमें अपडेट मिल पाता है, बाद में फिर हम केस को क्लोज कर पाते हैं। ये कुछ बेसिक गैप आ रहे हैं इस सिस्टम के अंदर, जो हम एज ए चाइल्ड वेलफेयर कमेटी इसको देख रहे हैं। बाकी पैनल डिस्कशन में जब भी क्वेरी आएंगी या क्वेश्चन आएंगे उसको हम कंटिन्यू करते हैं। आई थिंक मिनी जी आगे कंटिन्यू कर पाएंगी कुछ चीज़ों को, तो एक दिल्ली की पूरी पिक्चर को हम लोग देख पाएंगे। थैंक यू।
Dhanyavad, Mr. Pathak. Vinny, why don't you take on from there, because you are also the, playing at an equally important role. So before we move on to get the perspective from the SA, from the director of Balanand, why don't you tell us how you have seen the impact in the past few months of these regulations?
Thank you, Girija. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for this opportunity. Regarding the changeover that has taken place from the courts to the DMs, it's as any change happens, there is going to be a delay and resistance that would come through. But we must all understand that at the end of the day, that is the law that has come through. So it is the reason why this was done was when we were in Kara, we had also resisted this move from moving it from the courts to the DMs. But the thing that we had noticed at that point is most of the time the delays were happening in the courts. And especially during the pandemic, I think that it completely went berserk, when everything went to a standstill. So that is when all these pendencies piled up. On top of that, the courts were, there were a lot of changes that were happening, which will again, similar changes will keep happening with the DMs also. They're not there for a long time. They keep changing and they have to get used to this new module and everything. So, but the instruction from Kara is very clear. The DM is supposed to look at majorly 3 documentation. That is, if there is an NOC from Kara for an inter-country adoption, if the adoption committee minutes that have been for in-country, if those are there, and the third document that is important is a legally free certificate from the CWC. Once all these 3 documents are there, a clear picture regarding the child and the family comes before the DM, and they're able to interact with the child and the parents in a much better manner, in a more, it's a closer manner. So this is what was envisaged when they had changed it from the courts to the DMs. Now, why we are all afraid is because we feel that because the courts were there, there is a lot of security that is there. People are afraid they will not be doing any hanky-panky, whether it's a SA, whether it's the state, whether it is, everybody is on their toes when it comes to the courts. And they feel that this, a DM can be manipulated on this. But see, at the end of the day, DM is a government servant. He would never do anything that will not be in line with the law. So that is one safety net that we have, and so many cases that have been able to be cleared from the courts. From the DM side, they have been able to clear a number of adoption decrees. It is because it is easier with the DM, and all the paperwork remains the same. There is no paperwork that has changed. The only thing that has changed is there is no lawyer now presenting the case. It is the DCPO is presenting the case to the DM. So that is one more level that has been taken away. So there is no, the parents don't have to pay for a lawyer or any such documentation. Everything is taken care of by the state departments themselves. So that is one part of it. Secondly, how much delay that happens. Yes, since the notification came in September, I think till November, everybody was struggling. This November, December, everybody was struggling with the point how to go about it and what to do. But now, more or less, everything is streamlined and they are coming. Everybody is coming, knows what needs to be done and how it needs to be done. So whether it's the DCPU, whether it is the DM, the parents also, everybody knows the timelines and they know they have to finish it within that 2-month period. So it is in a better position today than it was in, November, December last year, once the changeover had happened. Further, whatever the changes have come through in the regulations, these were all envisaged from the point of view of the children who were suffering because of the lack of, clarity with the parents that were taking the children in adoption. So there are a lot of disruptions and disillusions happening. Why? Because parents are not prepared for the child that is coming to them. So once that is taken care of by the SARs themselves, the social workers, if they take care of that part of it, then it would not be such a difficult, transition for the parents and the child and everybody concerned in this. And adoptions can then run smoothly. And especially adoption committee meetings are a very important part in the in-country adoption. I think that should be emphasized, and everybody should take care that that is given the due importance that it should get. So an HSR, that is the first document regarding the parents that come on the net on the system. So that should be the social workers should ensure that the family she has done the relevant number of discussions and counseling sessions, and if she feels that the family needs more time, she should spend time with them and give it. Not that mandatory ek do baar kar liya uske baad khatam ho gaya. It should be the hand holding is continuous. Even when they get a child, the hand holding needs to continue. This continuation of hand holding continues even when the child comes into the adolescent age. Because that is where most parents get a little worried and they are more, they go towards the fact that the child can be returned. That is where the mentality comes through. Oh, maine ye adopt kiya hai, so I can return it. No, that is where the social worker needs to put in her bit. She needs to ensure that the parents understand that this is their child, not from their womb, but definitely their child. So that hand-holding needs to be a continuous process. I think more or less I've said everything. If there's anything that needs to be, this is because I have worked at both ends. So I thought I could cover both of it. And let me know if there's anything else.
Thank you so much for that perspective. I'm going to move on now to Madhvi Mhatre, the director of Bal Anand. Now she is going to give us a completely different perspective from a SARS point of view. And I know that Madhvi, you and I have had several discussions on this, and I think that your stance is completely different. And we'd like to hear from you as to what is your opinion of this major shift from the DMs to the courts.
Thanks, Girija. Thank you so much. I hope you all can hear me.
Yes.
Okay. I think I agree with a lot of things which Minnie has mentioned. And it's the first time I'm seeing Minnie too. I've also been speaking to her on the phone a lot of times.
The phone.
All of you. Yes. All right. So let me start with the last point that Minnie was talking about, the HSR. HSR is indeed a very, very important document, which I think has to be realized by all, that if we are looking at the best interest of the child, then the home study report has to be done very thoroughly and in depth. And when I'm saying a home study report, is not just a report. I think it's a preparation of the family towards what they are getting themselves into. It is an understanding of the family's mindset, and if need, a counseling sessions to change their mindset towards a smooth adoption process. So while we are saying that, one of the major, I'll just go through some of the points which we as SA find problematic. One of the major thing is a lot of HSRs which are done. There are agencies who are doing a great job with it, but there are some who are, it is very sad that it's a yes-no questionnaire, and I don't think that should be the case. I think that somewhere along SARA has to look into it, SCARA has to look into it and look at more trainings and more understanding, because this is a very important document on the basis of which the parents are going to be prepared, and on the basis of which we can ensure that there is no disruption or dissolution in families. The child gets a more stable home, and I don't think it should ever be a situation for a child to come back to the institution. That is the worst thing that can happen to any child. Because for parents, it's a different thing altogether. Their life continues the way it is. For a child, it's a totally different scenario, and it is extremely psychologically stressful, traumatic, and horrible for a child to get back into the institutional setup. So therefore, it is so important that a home study is done thoroughly, and it is not just a time span. It is a detailed thing. Some families may require more time. And that's where sometimes I don't completely agree with CARA's timelines when they say home study should be ready in 20 days or 30 days. You know, I'm coming from a time when I'm sure on the panel I have seen Miss Nilima Mehta being there, and I'm sure she'll agree with me. I'm coming from a time since 90s when we have done home studies, and we believed, I think a lot of agencies in Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore, who I have interacted with always had these discussions, and we believe that we do an interview and give a time period before we did a second interview, so that we are able to understand, we give family time to think over the questions we have posed, the questions they have answered, and then come back more detailing of the discussions that happen thereof. And in the process, the home study process, once we start with the interviews, could take anywhere between 1 month sometimes, which families who are difficult or having some blocks, mental blocks, it could even take up to 2 months. And this is the process during which, when we come across families who we feel are not prepared, we reject them at that time. It's unfortunate that some families are not suitable for adoption, but we have to do those things with the best interest of the child in mind. We have to think that this is the family where a child is going to be placed, and for the child, will this family be appropriate? I know the families may differ. I know a lot of people feel that families are there, it's for a child. With today's scenario, this is a scenario even when we had less families Indian families coming forward for adoption. We used to do such a judicious process, such a detailed process with families to ensure that no disruption happens. No family is, taking a child and giving it back. And today, when we have so many families, and I'm saying this not just because I'm in this field, I'm saying this because I have been posed questions by adoptees, and we have to think of that. Today, when we are looking at adoptions, we have to think of future. So when an adopted child becomes 18 and 20-year-old, and the child comes back to search about its background, its roots, the child's roots, that's the time when they come up with questions, and some of the questions can floor you, believe me. They can really floor you. You can't even imagine that this could be the thought process behind it, because we thought we were doing the best. And there comes a child who questions us, why do you think this family, why do you think I should have had a single mother only? And then it starts making us social workers think, okay, was I playing God in placing this child in this family? So, these are questions which come up, and therefore probably our thought process when we look at preparing families for adoption is more into details of which areas we should discuss with them, what are the problems we could pose them with, and their replies, then prepare them for it. Therefore, I feel the process of home study is a very nice, I think it's a very close process with your social worker. And I think families should give it that time, should make that a period, a time when they can ask as much as possible, be prepared for the worst, get into all possible problematic situations and think how we will resolve them, so that your preparation becomes better. The problem that we were talking about also for older children, when we are looking at cross states adoption, interstate adoption. Now, these are areas for older children, which, as we all know, is a difficult area because of their language, food, as Minnie was talking. But besides that, one of the things for placing an older child, is the time frame that we give for preparing the child for that adoption. It is not just the family who has to decide, but also the child. And that is not an easy process. That doesn't happen in one go. So you need to give a larger, longer time for the family to come and meet the child for a longer period before a adoption decision has to be taken. Only then it can go smoothly. So in olden days, when adoptions were done by the agency, but perhaps or also with the agency, if there was an older child, what we used to do is we used to introduce the child, then ask the family to come again repeatedly for a few visits. Thereafter, we would say, okay, let's take the child out with the family so that the family starts understanding the child. So we make a small outing somewhere along with the agency social worker and the family, and then come back again. We go make a one-day trip to the family's home, get the child used to the home where the child is going to go to, because it's an older child. For a younger child, it won't make so much of a difference, but an older child, it makes a hell of a lot of difference. So that process we would take on for a month or two, and thereafter ensure that the child is going into the family or not. And after that process, if at any stage we feel that the child is not ready for it, then we have to stop it. We have to stop it even at that stage. Instead of allowing the child to go to their home and then have a disruption and have the child come back, it's easier not to continue with the process, leave it at that. It's much better for the child, because then it's still not left the institution and it's still with his friends, and no change otherwise has happened. So that is an area which becomes very difficult in today's scenario when we are looking at children from different institutions and families from different institutions, especially when it comes to older children. I have one question, in fact, when Sarah's connected with Sarah's presentation.
I'm going to interrupt you for a second because you brought.
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm going to interrupt you for a second because I think you brought out a very important point that I would like the other panelists to talk about as well, which is the, because you brought up the older child scenario, which nobody has, really thinks about or talks about. And with the new changes that are happening in the regulations, right, with timeline, it is becoming very automated. Where is the human touch? I mean, as a director of a where is the human touch? I'd like to ask you, and I'd also like to bring in our DCPU, Mr. Saidullah from Yadadri. He hasn't had a chance to speak. Sir, if you can also, yes, there he is. If you can also add on to Ms. Mahatre's issue on, this personal touch, especially with regard to the new regulations that are coming up. I think that would be nice. And then Madhavi will come back to you for the other
okay. Yeah.
as well. Thanks.
Sure.
Okay. Good evening, madam.
Evening.
And I am Saidulu, District Child Protection Officer from Yadadri District, Telangana. Actually, our Honorable District Collector should participate in this meeting, but due to some important work, Madam, she is not participating. Okay, Madam. Anyway, after new regulations act in our district, in our erstwhile district, our Honorable Collector passed 18 orders. So it is very, by this, I am saying, by this Amendment Act, it is very easy to pass this orders, madam. By this, actually, before this regulation acts, actually, when we admit into a school, this is very problem to PAPS. We faced many problems in this issue, and in some issues also, generally, if any child suffers any health problem, on the time also PAPS they suffered to claim insurance problems also. In this way, after amendment to this act, our district collectors, it is very easy. Within 15 days, we can get within, actually, according to Act, 60 days is there. But after DCPU presents before district magistrate, district magistrates also, and through Zoom meeting, they are giving orders as early as possible, madam. This facility is very, after this amendment, this act, it is very easy to give orders to the PAPs, madam. I think we should suggest some one case in this we faced, madam. Some parents, PAPs, they are not getting birth certificates. This is one problem. Actually, they may born 40, 50 years before, but they may not get birth certificates, new birth certificates. So this is one problem PAPs are saying, but we should clear on this issue, madam. Actually, new amendment act is very safe and easier to the PAPs, I think.
Okay, thank you, sir, for that input. Back to you, Madhvi, because you know, the message I'm getting is that it's a much faster process. But I think from your conversation, your message is that, is it a safe process, right? Are there enough checks and balances that are happening? So, you know, obviously that is of concern to us because, you know, like even Mini said that, you know, first there were about 1,000 orders that were waiting in the court, and now they've, you know, they've been compressed and we've cleared so many. But do you think there is that personal element that is happening, especially with regard to older children? Because we don't want, like, I mean, I can understand your sentiments that you do not want the child to be returned back to the SA once there is an adoption. So do you think this new regulation is taking care of that? Or do you think, you know, because as adoption counselors, that is our worry.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can please just add on, because you know you get a different perspective and Madhvi gets a different perspective. And I think that is the idea of this a discussion like this, so that parents on our panel who are listening on can be aware of, you know, what is the situation currently.
So I'll come back. I mean, I'll again refer to the same point that I made earlier. Like, this is my personal opinion, and over the years of experience that where I come from, I have seen how it was in 94, 93, 94, before CARA came into picture. I've seen how after CARA came into picture, and I'm seeing it today also. Now, my concern is maybe the process with the district magistrate could be a little speeded up in certain areas, but the type of pendency that was seen, I think I will attribute it also to the pandemic, which did not help the situation at all. And I think that varies from place to place, from court to court, from, you know, different areas. The pendency will depend upon the judicial system in that area, that court. So it is very subjective to, you know, where it is, which area we are talking about. But having said that, I am worried about the what do you call, confidentiality aspect of it, because as of today, I know there are, and we can hear of a lot of cases also being put up by the adoptees who are in search of their roots and are wanting to know the details about their background, wanting to meet their parents at times. And in that scenario, they're also questioning, and there have been stories coming up in the newspapers about how a child was falsely given into adoption, and, you know, all kinds of stories that come up. Now, my concern would be like when the documents are going to the DM's office, how safe are they? How much of information can anybody be? Like today, when the documents are with the court, they are with the court. So if to access any document, they have to make an application to the court to get any information. When they come to the SA, and whatever basic information except the confidential information is shared, and the background is done, and the policy of CARA to do a search by the SA is followed. And if the mother is willing, then probably meeting can be, all those things, the procedures are being followed. But now if it is with the, maybe any of the officials who are there with us can enlighten on this. This is my major concern. How is the confidentiality going to be managed? And also when we are looking at, I do not know the process of what happens in a destruction, because in the court of law, the process is very well defined. In the courts, like when the adoption is done and thereafter to what do you call, go back and reverse the adoption, sort of that process will, I do not know how it will be going in the DM's office. And I don't know, so far I do not know of foreign adoption matters which have happened, and what happens thereafter, I have no clue of that. So that is an area I worry about. Yeah, so these are things which do concern me. In my experience, even in the court of law, I have experienced the judges who have actually questioned the adoptive parents also, even after the social worker has recommended them, which was really amazing. I have had very great experiences with judges. We have had judges who have even asked for, just randomly said, okay, let's hold on, I'm worried about this document, do a search. I've had that kind of experience also, do a search for whether the child was surrendered properly or not, whether processes have been followed or not. So I have had those kind of experiences with the judiciary. I do not know whether the same will be, and it makes me feel secure. It makes me feel as if somebody is taking good, what do you call, interest or concerns about the child. So I think that makes me feel secure, as far as even if somebody questions my work, I still feel okay. Then they are showing interest. They are looking at the well-being of the child. I do not know whether that will be possible from a DM's office, because it's an office. And another major concern is the district magistrate, also, as far as my knowledge goes. The district magistrate's office is also supposed to monitor the functions of the institutions in their jurisdiction. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then wouldn't it be clashing these dual roles? When you're a monitoring authority and then you are approving of the cases within your jurisdiction from the same institutions. I do not know, but this is another question in my mind. So these are some of the concerns that I have and the implications thereof on the adoption.
I have been monitoring. Thanks so much, Madhavi. I have been monitoring some of the questions in the chat. Looks like we need a separate session with CARA itself, or CARA should reach out for a similar session with all the PAPs. 80% of the questions in the chat are related to processes working or not working at various levels within CARA. So we'll keep those aside for a different session. But some of the relevant for the topic that we are discussing is, some question is coming that what if the DM has not started processing some of the cases even as of March 2023? So maybe Sneha, if you can give what is the recourse, or if the panelists can say, what is the recourse if some of the cases have not yet been processed by any of the DMs, even after 6 months? What happens to those cases?
Neha, are you in the meeting? I can't see her. I thought I saw her.
Okay, probably we'll come back to that.
I can see her.
Yeah. Girija, your audio is very weak for some reason.
I can see Sneha is in the meeting. Maybe Sneha, you have to unmute.
Or maybe she just stepped away. So we can continue.
The other relevant question to CARA was the state-based referrals also, because that is again a major change that has happened in the new regulations. So I was wondering, Avinash, if there is somebody in the panel here who can throw some light on that, because there are a lot of questions coming up on the state-based referrals. Because now the option of choosing a child, choosing that option of anywhere in India is no longer available. So I think maybe Sneha or Mini, if you have any.
Girija, I think Sneha had already mentioned that anywhere in the state is no longer an option, but a cluster is an option. So north, south, east, west is still an option there, apart from the distinctive states that you want to take up.
But see, that's
Yeah,
the
Mini, and that was my
mostly-
concern also. Good that you brought out Geja. See, what happens is certain decisions are definitely not data driven. If Kara looks into its own distribution of children availability, they are not normally or equally distributed, correct?
Yeah.
And the logic that they brought out of adjustment of children and to minimize dissolution is more relevant for older children. So to say child above 3 or 4 years. If Kara looks back its own adoptions statistics, they would find 80% of the children are below 2 years of age.
Yes.
Nobody's adopting children above 3 or 4 years of age to that extent from Kara. Definitely, it's not happening. So this decision definitely does not hold good, because if you have more children in Maharashtra or Telangana, howsoever the less they are, totally there are less than 50 healthy children below 2 years of age. We all know that. But then assuming even those 50 children are being waiting, some 30 or 40, 20 to 30,000 parents are wanting to adopt a child below 2 years of age. So now that it means in Delhi, there are no children. Maharashtra, there are 8 or 10 children. The PAP in Delhi will wait for another year or so. So what is the rationale of having state-based referrals for children below 2 years of age? At least I also fail to understand. Will any of the panelists throw a light in case Sneha is not available to respond to that?
I think it must have been done generally to facilitate the parents only, that they don't have to choose states, so they get a cluster of states and they're able to take. So Maharashtra would come in that west part of it. So if they choose west, then they can.
Yeah, but parent domiciles in north cannot choose Maharashtra any longer now.
They don't have a choice to choose. It depends on where, it's based on their
where you're staying.
They can't choose. So that's what Avinash is saying, that if I'm a parent from Delhi and I know that there are no kids available in Delhi, then I am definitely at a disadvantage. And the other question is that if I'm from Delhi and let's say my husband is from Kerala, then what happens? Can I choose both clusters? Can I choose one cluster?
Yeah, I think that is what she said, that you can choose both of it. I mean, that is an option that is available, then you can choose both of it.
Correct. That's what Sneha suggested. Sneha, are you available online?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. There's just some engagements happening at home, so that's why a bit on and off. But
Sneha, yeah, did you hear the question?
Cluster. You can choose one cluster or 2 states. So cluster.
Yeah, but the larger question, Sneha, was that this was purportedly done when you explained to help older children adjust in their environment, which is appreciated and nobody can deny that. But 80% of adoptions under Kara are for children below 2 years of age. And for them, if you bring cluster based on domicile, that means a PAP in Delhi has to wait for now 5 or 6 years, because there are no children in Delhi, Chandigarh, Haryana, Punjab. Your children are not normally distributed. So what is the rationale for doing it across the board? This could have been done for older children.
So sometimes what happens is a child, when they come to the institution, we don't know how long they are going to be there in this institution. So that journey from being 0 to 2, we don't know when it will, like for how many years they are going to be there in the institution. And the changes that we bring, it is so, the system itself is so dynamic, and it has so many not ifs and buts, but then there are already so many permutation and combinations that we have to make in order for these adoptions to run on the portal. Then to say that to bring these changes for this age, for that age, it is something that, of course, depending on the kind of feedback, if we are saying that PAPs might not benefit from it, then of course the policymakers will take a call on it. But as of now, we are also to see, because this state-based referral is something that has not started. We only have parents who have registered post the notification, and I think on 10th November, we made this new form functional on our portal. So these are the parents who have just they just joined the seniority queue. So we don't know how it is going to pan out. So as of now, all the parents who are getting referrals are the ones who must have given 3 state choices or anywhere in India. So the referral they are going to get is as per the preferences that they have set at that time. So we are also yet to see how this thing is going to pan out, because everything is in a very transition phase. now we can say that the change from the court to DMs is something that has been appreciated by everyone, and it is working out for Kara as well as other stakeholders. Now there are many more changes. We are also going to see how it is going to pan out, because similar to this, we also have chief medical officers. That has been the most challenging part. Because now the term CMO, now there are certain states who do not have the designation of CMO. They have something else, the health officer or something else. So there are certain changes that will take some time to.
No, that is right, Sneha. Only thing is that this does not, the data does not support it. While other changes, DM, you had strong data to say there's a long pendency, and it took as many months and years to bring it about. There was a business case for it, for at least looking at Kara's data on availability of children and the waiting time and the distribution of PAPs. At least it's definitely not supported by data. I see some hands up. Nilimaji would like to ask a question. You're on mute, Nilimaji.
Avinash, while we wait for Nilima, to support your argument, I think in today's generation, a lot of us in that age group of PAPs are working in some of the metro cities, right? While we might belong to any part of India. So there will be a high concentration of PAPs from, say, Bangalore, Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, and so on, right? While children's availability is obviously not from these metros only. And also, given that like many like me have not come from one state, right? I have myself stayed in a number of states in India through my life, right? So where do I belong, right? Where do I put as domicile? That's a question for Sneha.
Fair enough. Yeah. Nilimaji, can you share your question? Because we have just about 15 more minutes on the group discussion.
Yeah. My question is very basic to this whole decision that you're discussing today. Is faster better? Is it really faster? And is it really in the best interest of the child to rush without thorough inquiry, thorough preparedness, and thorough, preparedness in terms of home study report, counseling, to give the child in adoption? So is speed better than appropriate, adequate inquiry and preparedness? So this is my basic question, that whether is it really fast, and whether it is faster better, or is thoroughness better? That's my question. That's it. I have no other comment.
A very, very valid question. So maybe Varun, you have not spoken for some time. Varun, you can come in.
Yeah. Actually, इसमें अविनाश जी, जो मेरा एक्सपीरियंस है, नो डाउट कि कोविड की वजह से काफी सारा पेंडेंसी और बहुत कुछ रहा है. कोर्ट के कुछ बेनिफिट भी हैं, कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस हैं, कुछ अगर हम कहें कि गैप भी है. डिस्ट्रिक्ट मजिस्ट्रेट क्योंकि ऑलरेडी बहुत ओवरबर्डन है, तो जैसे मैं अपने जुडिक्शन में देख रहा हूं, तो उन्होंने एडीएम को आगे फैमिली से इंटरेक्शन, डॉक्यूमेंटेशन को बेसिक जो काम है वो अपने सुपरविजन में वो एडीएम को उन्होंने कन्वे किया है. एडवोकेट की जगह डीसीपीओ केस को प्रोड्यूस कर रहे हैं, होम विजिट और बाकी प्रोसेस कर रहे हैं. ऐसा लग रहा है अभी सिचुएशन को देखकर, जैसे मेरे 8 केसेस लास्ट 2 ईयर में अभी अडॉप्शन के लिए गए हैं मेरे चाइल्ड वेलफेयर कमेटी से, मगर वो डिस्ट्रिक्ट मजिस्ट्रेट अदर सीडब्ल्यूसी का भी पार्ट देख रहे हैं दिल्ली के जुडिक्शन के वजह से. अगर चीजें स्मूथली रही तो ये प्रोसेस फास्ट हो सकता है. ये अभी जो, क्योंकि अभी स्टार्टिंग है, सभी लोग समझ रहे हैं, और एक जो इसमें थोड़ा सा डाउट है कि जैसे ही डिस्ट्रिक्ट मजिस्ट्रेट चीजों को समझेंगे, स्मूथ करेंगे, फास्ट करेंगे, फिर वो ट्रांसफर वाला प्रोसेस आ जाएगा. तो वो एक हमको दिखाई दे रहा है, क्योंकि ऑलरेडी बहुत ओवरबर्डन है डिस्ट्रिक्ट मजिस्ट्रेट. वो कब अवेलेबल हैं, कब नहीं है, कब आउट ऑफ स्टेशन है या मीटिंग में है, अदर भी चीजें हैं. तो वो थोड़ा सा आई थिंक सो कि शायद उम्मीद तो है कि ये स्मूथ होना चाहिए, और डिपेंड करेगा पर्सन टू पर्सन, वो कितना इंटरेस्ट ले रहे हैं, कितना टाइम दे रहे हैं. एक्ट में सभी चीजें टाइम बाउंड हैं, मगर उसके बाद भी बहुत सारी चीजें विद इन टाइम फ्रेम के अंदर कंप्लीट नहीं हो रही हैं, उसमें एक गैप है. सीडीएमओ वाला एक इम्पॉर्टेंट पॉइंट है कि उनके मेडिकल एग्जामिन को लेकर भी कुछ गैप आ रहे हैं. अगर वो कोई रिकमेंडेशन दे देते हैं या फिर कुछ और चीजें उस पार्ट पर कुछ डिले होती हैं, तो वहां पर भी पेरेंट्स को भी कंफ्यूजन है। कुछ स्टेट में जो अभी ऑलरेडी डिस्कस हो चुका है, तो वो भी थोड़ी सी क्लियरिटी आने की जरूरत है कि वहां पर और थोड़ी क्लियरिटी आए, तो प्रोसेस और फास्ट हो पाएगा। पब्लिकेशन वाले पार्ट पर भी अभी थोड़ा सा ध्यान देने की जरूरत है। कुछ स्टेट में टाइमली हो रहा है, कुछ स्टेट में काफी डिले है पब्लिकेशन को लेकर।
So there is definitely, Nilima ji asked a very, very pertinent question, and that was the backdrop of this workshop itself, that a lot of focus is being put on the process and the delays, which is definitely required. But then what is the priority? Is faster better or better quality of adoption better? So I think if other panelists also give about a minute's bite on what they believe can be done to make the process really more humane, more foolproof, more secure for the child and for the family, not just the, like an automatic pipeline. It's not an assembly line. How fast can we close adoptions? Yes, we all know child need not be stay in our institution for even a single day, then more required. But then is that the only big priority before us? Or what as a community we can come together and suggest, whether to CARA, whether to ministry, whether to DMs also, what are those 3 or 4 things that need to happen? Whatever may be the law of the land, whether DM or courts, we have to work with the ambit of law. Absolutely. What is that we can do to bring the human touch back? While somebody is working on the speed part of it, what can we do as CWC, as DCPU, as SA, as NGO, as CARA, to make adoption a more happy experience for everyone and a secure and a safe?
Agree.
Can I say something, Avinash?
Please.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to say a couple of things. One is I completely agree with Nilima ma'am that speed is not the solution to everything. I think quality is so much more important and the best interest of the child to ensure that he is safe and has a steady life thereafter and a good family life thereafter. So definitely the quality is very, very, very important. And towards this, will point out a couple of things. When we are looking at a lot of medical aspects, the changes that have been made, that going to a chief medical officer and things like that, the onus definitely lies on the SA to ensure that they do the right medical processes for the child, to ensure everything is transparently put forth. But the parents also need to understand that, I know a lot of parents, when they are asked to bring a medical document for themselves, they say, why do we need it? Or just get a simple thing saying, oh, certified to be healthy. They do not want to go through the processes. But when it comes to considering a child, they want additional things to be done. They want to take them to specialists and neonatologists and a lot of medical aspects, medical areas. And they don't trust. They want to know that the child is perfectly healthy. I feel like asking, when a child is born to us, do we go through any medical processes? Though we know, can I guarantee that the child born to me is going to be perfect? So we accept that. Similarly, the basic processes, what we do, what a SA does, have to be, and what have been put down by CARA, what have been put down in the regulations, have to be followed. So that onus lies on the SA to ensure that you follow everything. And also the parents to ensure. Now, while we are looking at the numbers, I think one of the important things may be something which we think as a SA is, because today there are all kinds of families who are coming forward for adoption. So having some kind of criteria put down so that we divide them accordingly for the parents and look at speeding up the processes in certain areas. Like already CARA has done, if there are 2 children in the family, then to go for a third child to be of special needs. Those kind of aspects definitely will be of use. But even while saying that there is 1 child in the family, or when there is a very young couple who is just newly married for 2 years or 3 years and just decides, the thought of adoption is a very innovative idea for them sometimes. And they just want to do, we want to adopt. I don't think that should be, it should be a very thought out process for reasons, because thereafter, post-adoption, I know of families who have given birth to a child, and then they are like, the comparison begins. So if the preparation is not done properly, then sometimes, I'm not saying in all cases, but yes, there's a possibility of that happening. And then where do we go? So to avoid those kind of things, I think everybody have to work. This is a very humane program and has to be worked on together. And here I miss, in those years earlier, there used to be a lot of collaboration with the government and the institutions, the NGOs, and we worked together into preparing also. I remember the first TARA guidelines also, where people from the field, Nilima ma'am and a lot of others, Mrs. Damodaran, and everybody had come together and we had regular meetings and discussions. And I think I've lost out on those. I think there is no connect between the government and the SARS. And if that can be done again, so the ground realities can be brought up, and there is more inputs from everybody, I think we will be able to do better.
So we see a lot of hands going up, and we have just 15 more minutes. We can probably extend the session by another 10 minutes to maximum 25 minutes. So I'd
like to add on to this. We are talking about older children getting adopted. There is no humane touch happening. If I'm not mistaken, the hard to place children do not come on referrals. They are seen on the portal, and SA can take the initiative of still finding parents for them and doing everything that they were doing before also. So hard to place children, I don't think that their humanness, human touch still remains. So you need to, if you want to let the child meet the family, let the family meet the child or see the scenario, that can still happen, because those children do not go in referrals. In referrals, only those children who are the babies who go in referrals. And even at the time of referrals, before the referrals, the parents need to be educated on not to create that hurry for getting a child. There are parents who would register today. Within a week, they want their HSR to be completed. Within the next month, they want the first child referral to happen to them. This is not practical. This is where the social worker needs to tell them very clearly before, when they come to register, when they register online, and the first meeting that happens, that they need to clarify all these issues, that this is the timeline that is going to happen. Even if we give birth to a child, it takes us more than 9 months, because 9 months we are carrying the child, but the family, the husband, wife decide before that whether they want a child or not. So it's a planning that happens, and then they decide to have a child, which takes 9 months, and then they finally have a child. So why does every parent who comes into adoption, they want a child immediately? That is why faster, everything should be faster. So everybody is concentrating on that part. It should be a faster process.
So part of the answer lies because, and it's part of sensitization, because adoption itself is thought as a last resort. If adoption is not considered last resort, parents will not spend their precious years outside of adoption as a choice. And then when they come to adoption, they have run out of time, they run out of patience, they run out of energy. And then they want fastest delivery. And
then they want the smallest child also. They will not look at the point that they have passed that prime of their age. So now getting up at night at 3 o'clock to feed the child is not a possibility that they can do.
Even if it is a possibility, even if they can wake up at night, the huge gap between them and the child will reflect in the maturity. So it's not a healthy option.
So that is where the social workers need to interact with the families on a regular basis and educate them on that.
Correct.
That is where it is missing. That is why this in disconnect is coming in.
Yeah.
Because everybody is now concentrating on how faster we can do it, how faster we can get the HSR on board.
Yes, we are
I'm sure
running out of time.
Be getting a call saying, why have the parents have registered on so-and-so date? Why haven't you done their HSR?
Let's open the house for questions. There are quite many hands and we are really running short of time. So Nilibaji, maybe if you can wait, because unless if it's a quick point, you can make a quick point and then I can go on to others.
Yes. Yeah, very quick point. Sorry, very quick point. Is the answer to your question, what is the purpose of this meeting and what is the expected outcome? The outcome is to bring the soul back into the adoption process, to bring the humaneness that you referred. And I think that is the critical part. The whole thing has 5 P's. We have the protocol, we have the paperwork, we have the procedures, and we have the problems. Today, let's bring back the protection part of it and the persons in the adoption process into the forefront, which is the parents and the children, maybe children and parents in that order. So really the outcome, this is a great initiative by Families of Joy, and the outcome of this should be, like you said, to bring the humaneness back, or I'd say the soul, bring the soul back into the adoption process by becoming person-centered, child-centered processes and child-centric work rather than problem-centric. Thank you.
Completely agree. Let's take questions in the order I see them. Ritu raised the hand first. So very quick, please do not bring individual questions to Kara. You can have a separate audience. Please limit your questions to which will benefit the community as a whole. So
I'm asking a question. If now you all have changed the policy of ages. If this policy, is it prospective or retrospective? Someone has earlier qualifies for the age, and now you have changed the age from 0 to 2 and 2 to 4. So what is, first of all, the age, and is it prospective or retrospective?
Sneha, can you answer that, please?
It's prospective, sir. It's prospective unless you have crossed the upper age bar, that is 1010 as a couple, and I think it's 90 as 45 as a single parent. Then you cannot be in the adoption procedure. Otherwise, it's prospective as of now. I'm saying as of now because we are seeing a lot of changes and how it is going to pan out. So because there are certain regulations that we have made retrospective, but as on today, this particular age criteria change is prospective.
My second question is,
Rituji, we can hold for only one question. I don't think we have time.
Just one second, please. One second. If a person is registered all India and the parent is born in, say, Haryana and now domicile of Karnataka, which will be applicable?
Okay, so I saw a lot of similar questions, so I'll address it here. All the references that parents registered prior to the notification are going to remain as it is. The only change that we have made in a retrospective manner is having 2 children. Otherwise, all the states, even if you have given certain age preference, you have given certain state preference, gender preference for the child, everything is going to remain as it is.
That was an important question, Sneha. I saw in other forums also. So what happens to parents when waiting for 2.5 years, and now with retrospective effect, you say you are no longer eligible because you have 2 children already?
Okay, that's for 2 children.
Yes. So that's the decision that you have just quoted, sir. So they are out of the seniority queue now.
Okay, let's go to Vidya and Bhavik.
Thank you very much for this session. We just want to comment. It is a complicated process and very lot of parties involved. The complication is further with the international adoptions, because the question I had for Snehaji was, you mentioned about the OCI being equivalent being implemented. However, what we are seeing on ground, that is not the reality. The 2 questions I have on that is, what is the training being given to international agencies? Secondly, what access do we have as international PAPs to actually raise our grievances? It's not very clear on this change law.
So if you want to raise any grievance, if you have any query for Kara, you can directly mail it to us. And there is also a grievance portal on the website. So you can make use of both. I think when you go to our website, you will also see list of officers and which officer is handling what department. So maybe you can directly mail it to the concerned division or on our help desk. We also have our helpline, so you can also call them in that manner if it is feasible. So grievance is something that you can register anytime through our mail or through the grievance portal. And the earlier question, the kind of training, so we do have regular, so when we brought these amendments, every agency, every authority on board were intimated about it. And then there were certain countries and agencies, AFAs, who had certain doubts. So that is something that we keep on clearing on day-to-day basis, as and when the agency is feeling any apprehension at anywhere. So that is something that we do.
Thank you, Snehaji.
A very quick One, this is not a Q&A for Kara, so let's not use up all our time for Kara. Secondly, we have esteemed panelists representing SARS, DCPU, CWCs. So I will request all future questions in 10-15 minutes that we have to be directed towards community as a whole. Yes, Kara questions are important, but I'm sure there'll be a time and place for all of those. So remaining questions, please make use of the diverse panelists and community that is available here and in the larger interest of the community. I can see Tapasya, I can see Kumar Vaibhav, Deepesh Mehta, Devrati.
My question is to Kara only actually, and it's just.
Devrati, can we wait for a Kara question, please? Let's take all non-Kara specific questions.
Sure.
Hi, it's Tapasya and Senthil here. I had a question which is probably for everyone, not specifically for Kara. Do we have the state-wise list of children in various clusters for various age ranges as well, 0 to 2, 2 to 4, and 4 plus? That will help perhaps like us understand what the scenario would look like. And the other thing I wanted to mention is thanks for taking the time. I know FOJ is a charitable organization, and you're taking time out of your own personal time to do this. And if there is anything we can do to help you, as perhaps outside the country as well, we'd be glad to be of assistance.
So
Thanks.
we can answer both of these on FOJ website. We used to quarterly update, but now we do it half yearly because not there was so much of movement of children. On FOJ website, you can see age-wise and state-wise availability of children. So you can go to children availability. And secondly, please mail directly to us. There are a lot of opportunities where you as PAPS can combine, and that will be definitely useful for us to interact with PAPS on an ongoing basis.
Avinashji, the question that we wanted to ask from a SAR perspective is that since the state-wise rules have come in, then have they seen any like sort of challenges in terms of like the placement of children in certain clusters over others? So has there been a drop or an increase in demand for certain clusters, which means that it's more work for SARS in some regions compared to others as well?
Madhavi, probably you can answer that as a SAR rep. You're on mute.
I'm not sure. I didn't really understand what she's trying to ask. Can you repeat that?
So she's asking, after the clusters come in, did you see a pattern where there was a more load of children going within clusters as compared to the previous arrangement when it was not cluster specific?
I don't think the cluster thing has started to flesh it now. It's prospective.
Okay, let's go to Naman, Kumar Vaibhav, Martin.
Yes, sir. Hi. So one broad question I have, which is asked in the chat group also, in case a prospective parents have registered on the Kara portal more than 6 months back, that is before the new regulations were implemented. And now when the new regulation have been implemented and now the parents wants to change from an all over India preference to a few state preference. So with that case, will the parents be forced to choose only the cluster of state, or since the parents had registered more than 6 months back, the parents can choose any 3 states which they want? I hope I've made my question clear.
I think Sneha mentioned in her presentation that you can go for a cluster or you can even choose a state.
I think what sir is asking is when they registered, there was state or all India preference was there. And now because we are in that buffer state, so when
Neha, please unmute and speak. Thank you.
Yeah. So now this is a very technical question. So I'm not 100% sure. I can take up this question and answer to you. But as far as I know, because the forms are also very different. So when you open your portal, you are going to see it in a way, in a similar way when you registered it. The new PAPs who registered it post 10/11, because that's the day when the new forms were made functional on the portal, their forms is completely different. So, and subsequently, so basically now we have two categories of PAP. If I can put it that way. One is post notification and one is prior to notification. So they have their own queue. So, I mean, the changes, the edit option that you get is going to be similar of when you used to get it previously. So, but this is something that I'll confirm. But as far as I know, if you want to change your state, you will have that same preference or that same flexibility that you would have otherwise had if these regulations were not here. The amendment regulations.
Okay, got it.
Thank you,
And
Sneha.
this date you mentioned is from exactly which date? Just for all our reference, the new rules were implemented on which date exactly?
No, not
11th
new
of
rules,
November.
not new rules, not the entire regulation I'm talking about, but the
In total.
online form for the
Correct.
parents. It was made functional on 10/11.
10th November, yeah, that's right.
November.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Got it. Thank you.
I think we have space for just a few more questions. So Deepesh, Martin, there's a number
Hi,
758.
Yeah,
So
I
please
have a
keep your questions brief.
yeah, I can speak next. So thank you, sir. So basically, our question was again on the 48 hours waiting that we have in Kara. So basically for the SA, not for Kara, is the medical reports which are submitted. Based on that, the PAPs have to take decision within 48 hours. But we have seen, and it's by the experience that we are saying is, if the medical reports are missing, what is SAR's kind of action towards it? Because a PAP has to react to it within 48 hours. So, I'm talking about, based on the regulations and the schedules which are mentioned, which is quite transparent, saying that based on the age of the child, what are the reports that we should expect in the MER? And based on that, if there are missing reports, how is SAR going to take?
So typically, I don't know. Yeah, Madhvi, you want to answer that?
Yeah. So I think there should not be missing reports. Most of the time, the SA, when they place a child on Kara, when the child is free for adoption, I think all the reports as per the regulation are completed and accordingly the MER is put. And if there is something missing from that, I think you should definitely ask the SA to get it organized or ask what is the status of that report.
Yeah, so, ma'am, it happened like for us in the first referral, it happened that the reports were just missing. There was like no reports, in fact, and we were just given 48 hours, and there was no extension on that 48 hours. Mails were sent, but since it's computerized and no personal touch, as you mentioned, right? It just went off. Like there was just mail going on, but since 48 hours windows cannot be extended, we lost on our referral. So I'm like not sure like how we can take, and these most of the PAPs I'm sure who are on this call must be facing, because there is no alternative, just mails to be sent both to SA and Kara, but the extension for the 48 hours window, which is computerized, doesn't get extended.
So
that brings back to the question of human touch. So while there is a benefit of having a virtual system from the comfort of our homes, obviously there is a challenge also at times. Amy, Deepesh, and the number 7581782. Can you quickly ask a question?
So my question is, parents who have registered before this new regulation came in, if they change the gender, okay, is it possible that we can change the gender and still the queue would not decrease for us? Is it applicable? This is what my question was. So the question is, can we change the gender without affecting the seniority?
So every change that you make with respect to the child, be it age, be it state, be it gender, it will somehow affect it, because then you are kind of choosing a particular category. Now, we do not know how, I mean, it depends on the availability of that particular customized preference that you are giving. So if you have given a girl child preference in a certain state, and that particular state has, for example, 50 of those children, but now you're changing it to a boy within that state. Now it will depend how many boys of that particular age that state has. So any change you make with respect to the child will slightly, I won't say it is dramatically going to change it, but then it will change the seniority.
So Sneha, just to clarify, and Dipesh partly answer your question, it will not change your seniority, it will change the wait time. The two are different. There's a separate blog on our website, separate YouTube video where you can understand how Kara waitlist works. So please go through that. Whenever you change your preferences, it will change the wait time. Your seniority is fixed at the time of registration, but how many people senior to you are waiting in the same bucket as you change will affect your wait time.
Hi. No, sir. Yeah. But still, this is not.
Any change that you make in your original form, your HSR agency should be aware of it. You just cannot go back because they would have made the HSR based on the preferences that you've given at that point. So any changes you make after your HSR is prepared, you have to inform your SA also. They should also be aware of it. That and the reason why you're making those changes also.
Sir, may I ask?
Yeah, thank you, Mini. Amy, yes, please ask.
I want to ask this changes with Avinash, can you mute others and can I go again?
One second, just.
Avinash, so my question is that these changes with regards to age group, we are told is prospective. But what happens to some of us? Like I registered in 2021, middle of 2021, and by the time the referral comes, I'll be crossing 45, and I was told that no, nothing changes for you. The age group that at the time of registration holds good, and just because the wait period is long, you fall out of that 45 age. So if it is prospective and not retrospective, then would that PAP retain the seniority for 2 to 4 year old child?
That's my understanding. Sneha can confirm.
Yes, sir. So if you have registered, let's say 3 years back, and so HSR is valid for 3 years, you get 3 referrals, approximately 3 referrals, depending on the availability of children within that particular waiting period. So if you have got at least, if you have not get any referral within that 3-year duration, then the date of seniority is going to be maintained as per the date of registration. But let's say that I waited, you're asking about this jumping of age bracket, right? So if it was first
in the new rules, according to the new rules. So since I registered in 2021.
So that is going to retain as it is.
That and is also will I, if I registered in 2021, will I, and I'm a single female PAP, will that 6-month advantage hold good because it was existing when I registered?
The 6 months, the anti-date seniority?
Yeah.
For single female PAP?
Yes. Yes.
No. All such relaxations have been made null and void.
From retrospective effect?
Ami, can we pass on the question to another Dipesh and another number? Yeah, really?
Just one.
Ami,
just one.
Avinash, can I ask a question? The next 3 years.
Just one.
No, please. I think one, we really cannot take any more Kara specific questions. We need to reach out to Kara for specific questions with Kara, and we'll take only one last question. Whoever takes
Avinash, sir, I want to take it. I'm Dhanashree. Avinash, sir, it is related to what Minimum said, that I completely agree with the special needs and hard to place children who are not being treated properly. So now they have introduced the special needs category or a 7-day list. So what our observation is that it is open to all PAPs, like the newly registered PAPs and older PAPs. So if a PAP in 2023 just get that list, he just out of curiosity or hurry.
Ma'am, your voice is not clear. Is anybody able to follow the question? We cannot hear you. There's a lot of static in your voice.
Am I audible?
No, maybe you can write your question in the chat and we'll try to take it up.
Sure.
And we have one question from Shweta, SCPS Bihar. Either of you can just post your question, please. Okay, so looks like none of them are available. I know there are many questions. We have downloaded the chat. So we will direct all Kara specific questions to Sneha or relevant authorities in Kara. Any other questions that we believe could have been answered by our panelists, we will reach out to our panelists and we will post them on our website. And this video is also available. It's already being streamed live to YouTube. Thank you so very much, everybody, especially all our panelists, Ms. Mini, Mr. Varun, Mr. Saidulu, Ms. Madhavi. Did I forget anybody? Arunendra, I don't know whether he joined or not. And thank you all for joining today. One specific request to all our PAPs. We believe there are several challenges that we need to come together in community and resolve. We are setting up on Facebook a dedicated community for all adoptive parents. I'm aware there are several parent groups, there are several NGOs, there are several clusters, but when we are not united, we are fighting our own battles. If we come along under one umbrella, it becomes easier to do advocacy, it becomes easier to do campaigning, it easier becomes to represent ourselves as one voice. So we will share the details on the WhatsApp group on our website. Request all of you to share that. Many times parents ask us, how can we help FOJ? I think the biggest way you can help FOJ is by helping ourselves as a community. So please ask anybody who is part of any social group on YouTube, or sorry, not YouTube, any social group on Facebook. You can continue to be part of that social group, but please do join this group, because if suppose there are hundreds of thousands of parents who have adopted in India as on date, if there are 200,000 community members behind one voice, it becomes easier to represent, it becomes easier to negotiate, it becomes easier to demand things that we deserve as a community. So please watch out for that, spread the word around, be part of that community. We are not trying to take you away from the platform where you already are. We are just trying to bring everybody under a common platform. So that is our vision, and we will continue to have these engagements. Looks like there's a separate session required for Kara, and Kara, I'm sure, is aware of that. So Kara keeps holding regular interaction with parents. Please do join them and let us know what else we should do as an NGO to enhance the quality of adoptions. We have our workbook, we have our priorities, but then if parents and community members, SARs, CWCs, DMs, if they can also tell us what is working out for them in the new regime, what is not working out, I think together as a community, we can address many of the challenges. So thank you so much, everybody joining, and have a great Sunday, and look forward to engaging, say another 6 months down the line. Let's make this a cadence. If you are connected, we will thrive, and I'm sure we will see the changes that we all want to see. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Avinash. Thank you, Girija.
Can you share Sneha's email ID? Can you share Sneha's email ID?
Sneha, you are in demand. Can you please share an email ID where people can approach Kara?
Yeah, we have a lot of doubts actually. So thank you so much.
To Kara Help Desk.
Sorry, Sneha, can you repeat that?
You have to reach out to us at Kara Help Desk. So that's the email ID, karahdesk@wcd.gov.in. It's there on the website. So that's basically where every mails come, and then it gets redirected to particular divisions. So you can mail it to there. And if at all you do not get the response, then of course through Avinash sir, you can ask for the follow-up.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Appreciate all of us coming together. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.